Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to talk about relativism between deities. The idea that different gods from different pantheons are in fact the same, or the same in what they symbolize. I mean, one example of this you could say is the trickster or the adversary. There appears to be one of these in every single known major religion and every pantheon that's practiced within the occult. Examples of this could be Loki, Hermes, Coyote, Set, Eris, among many others. Now, an argument that's often posed is that these gods are symbolic of the same energy. Now, depending on whether you practice purely from a psychological perspective or from a spiritual belief perspective, that's what I'm going to be speaking about today. The universal concepts which are in every single pantheon. There's also the father figure, the all-father figure. You could say Odin, Zeus, and you could even make that argument for Yahweh, but mainly in the Christian mythology, because according to the other two Abrahamic mythologies, God has no form. It was particularly a Christian idea that God appears as a bearded man, possibly due to the idea of Jesus. And that might also bleed into why the father figure was represented as a bearded man through the pagan use of Odin and Zeus. Now, history is often written by the winners, and during the Middle Ages, that Christianity had an adverse effect on major religions and European culture. They altered a lot to make the local populations more accepting of their religion. So you could say that this relativism has been used to say, hey, your religion is just like us. I'll use the example of Norse mythology. You could argue that Loki, who is more of a Judas figure than he is a Satan figure, could have been demonized to be the Satan of that religion. Balder, the sacrificial son, the much loved son of the All-Father Odin, being a Jesus-like figure, and Odin being the highest authority. Now, again, with the relevance of the highest authority, you have every single major religion or mythology has a god above all the rest. It has Odin for Nordic mythology, Ra in Egypt, Zeus in Greek mythology, but it varies between a lot of them, because with Odin, the earth was created by him and his brothers out of the remains of a giant, whereas the Egyptian mythologies are a little bit all over the place with it, because some say that Ra just created the earth and created everything, but others say that it was Geb and Nuit and the marriage between the two of them. It varies differently, and like I said, history is obscured in many of these ways, and it's not easy to know what to trust because of the Christianization of a lot of these cultures. And this also leads on to demonology as well, because a lot of the demons in the Ars Goetia and a lot of the demons through Jewish mysticism were pagan gods that were demonized through the cult of Yahweh. Well, maybe I'm not naming that properly, but it was the Yahwehists break off of the Canaanites that allegedly began this trend in the original Exodus, and seeing all of the local gods as demons. And that also relates to fertility gods. Every single pantheon also has a fertility god, and when you look to the Middle Ages, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that Pan, as a fertility god, his features also became synonymous with that of Satan, and it made him the perfect candidate. Now, my personal opinion on this is that they're not exactly that. Is that they're not the same. I'll elaborate on that a little bit in a sec, but I've also got another point to make, that when it comes to this notion of relativism, with regards to cultures being invaded and taken over with Christianity, an interesting thing has happened in the past with the reverse when it comes to voodoo. Now, when a lot of Africans were enslaved, they still practiced voodoo, but they practiced it through the use of taking the saints of the Catholic religion, because Catholicism still has a lot of esoteric elements. It has a lot of magic involved, and they were able to praise the saints they were able to praise their old gods, but under the name of the saints. So interesting how that happened in the reverse. But again, back to my opinion, and my opinion is that I would say that these gods symbolically definitely do have a lot in common. You could easily make the argument that they represent the same things with regards to, the tricksters, fertility gods, but I would argue that the cultural element is what separates them. Different cultures evolve differently over time, and it all depends on how you practice. I myself mix pantheons because, possibly you could say because of the cultural element, I see them through my meditations. I've worked with quite a few trickster gods, and they appear differently. They have different qualities in my spiritual practice. But in the psychological practice, it could be easier to make that argument that, for example, trickster gods are all part of the same symbol. Thanks, guys. See you next time.